Tonight, billionaire Jeff Bezos has some thoughts on taxes that even the likes of Elizabeth Warren and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez could get behind.
A nurse in Queens who makes $75,000 a year pays more than $12,000 a year in taxes. Does that really make sense? So people talk about, making the tax system more progressive. How about we start by having the nurse in Queens not pay taxes? We already have the most progressive tax system in the world. The top 1% of taxpayers pay 40% of all the tax revenue. The bottom half pay only 3%. We have already, and I think it should be zero. I don't think it should be 3%. Right. I think it should be zero. So we'd be making it more progressive that way.
Natasha Sarin joins us at the table now as well. Natasha, good to see you and welcome. We can start with you there. We have plenty to talk about when it comes to this interview that Jeff Bezos did, but let's start first with just the idea that he's presenting. And we can get into why he's maybe talking about this. But he says we have the most progressive tax code in the world. Do you think that's true? And do you think what he's suggesting could make a difference?
So I want us to sort of first ground ourselves a little bit in some of the math of what Jeff Bezos was presenting there, because I think it's flawed in some pretty important ways. The first way that it's flawed is that if you take someone like Jeff Bezos, a billionaire who's worth $280 billion, our tax system actually doesn't have a great way to generate revenue from him. And if you take what he said, if you decided to tax me double, you wouldn't be helping those teachers in Queens and those nurses. That's just like factually inaccurate. If you taxed him double this year, you would be increasing the salaries of every teacher in New York by $35,000 a year. On the bottom of the distribution, as Jeff Bezos is describing, the tax proposal that I think that he has in mind isn't going to cost 3% of federal tax revenues. It's going to cost something like 16% of federal tax revenues. And it's going to do nothing for the people at the very bottom of the distribution who currently don't have a tax bill because they are so poor. And those people aren't helped by deciding to have a tax system that cuts taxes further. Those people are helped by designing a system that is able to generate more revenue from people like Jeff Bezos to increase the social safety net, to make a refundable child tax credit that lifts millions of kids out of poverty.
No, I feel like you want to respond to that. Again.
Well, I think actually what Jeff Bezos said there is actually kind of cleverly subversive. He's going to have a lot of progressives now saying, well, look at even this billionaire, and we hate billionaires, and even he's saying that we have to reduce the tax burden. And meanwhile, he's articulating advocating a position that conservatives have said for a very long time, is that 10% of the income earners, the highest 10%, pay 70% of income taxes. Yes, the tax code is very complicated, but we're talking about income taxes and the progressive income tax schedule. And he's correct that the 10% highest earners pay 70%, 1% pay 40% of all income tax revenue. So now he's saying, well, listen, I'm on your side. You just have to agree with me on our actual numbers, which does educate the public about the nature. And also, when he's right on education spending, the extent to which we've doubled in New York City, we've doubled the amount of spending that we spend per pupil and students over the course of this century. Meanwhile, test scores have collapsed.
Right, but it's all kind of sleight of hand, because what is really bothering most Americans is that the tax code just doesn't deal with the wealth in the first place. We see these big headlines about this CEO has just been awarded $200, $300 million in compensation, but most of it is awarded in multi-year stock dividends, stock awards, and they can't be taxed on it. It's called unrealized gains. But you can go to the bank and use it like money. You can get a mortgage based on unrealized gains. You can use it as collateral for things. So the bank recognizes it as money, but the federal government does not recognize it as money because you have not taken it out so that you can put it in your pocket and spend it.
Which is when you're paying the tax.
And that's when you pay the taxes. And so I think most Americans look at that and go, yeah, I know I understand that what's happening here, but it's just not right that if I get a paycheck and a W-2, my income tax will be higher than the person who gets the stock.
It's the wage earners,
exactly,
right?
Yes, that's exactly right. And I think it's really important for your viewers to understand, you are in a system right now in this country where the effective tax rate on the top 400 wealthiest people in the United States, if you think about their economic income, which is their salary, but they're not taking salaries because salaries are for suckers. They're not taking salaries. They're making capital income, and the effective tax rate on them is something like 8 to 10%. That is lower than the tax rate on nurses. That is lower than the tax rate on teachers. And if you were actually in a system where we were able to get a hold of the capacity to tax people, no matter how they make income, in a way that is fair and right, you would be in a system that was collecting a lot more tax revenue from people like Jeff Bezos. You would be collecting a ton more.
Here's the political problem, though. When we were debating the Green New Deal in 2019, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez floated a confiscatory tax rate of 60 to 70% on your 10 millionth dollar, right? That is, at the time, 16,000 people in the United States paid taxes on their 10 millionth dollar. You'd raise about $200 billion. For a $32 trillion program, the math doesn't make a lot of sense. So you have to argue about going after a lot. You have to argue about
still talking about
you have to go after unrealized gains, which isn't real money.
So there are very few people out there who are literally getting a salary for the $10 million. They're stupid, right?
Well, every homeowner in this country, they have to pay taxes on the house they sit in and can't sell.
Under this system,
good luck.
It is better to take it as stock, because you don't have to realize the gains, and therefore you don't fall into the 10 million.
You know what? Can I just be very specific with you, because I think it's helpful. Over a 4-year period, the wealth of the 400 richest people in this country went up by $400 billion, and the amount of federal taxes that they paid into the system was less than $14 billion. That is an effective tax rate of 3.6%.
I understand what you're saying, but
we do not have a system
what
that
do
is
you want
well
that money
equipped
for? Is it
to
merely to
capture the
confiscate
revenue
it?
of this.
No, what do you want the money for?
So just to be clear, also, absolutely
what do you want it to do? Yes, that really does matter. Or is it merely to confiscate the wealth?
We just had Doge go through.
Not.
Well, first of all, they said they were going to cut billions of dollars. They didn't do it, but they did do massive damage to both domestically and internationally. The number of children that are suspected to have died because of Doge in Africa raises my blood pressure every time I even think about that number. It is outrageous, and it's unconscionable. And then we had the big, beautiful bill go through and cut health care for the poorest members of America, because they said they wanted to pay for those tax cuts. When you ask somebody, what do you want the money for? We want the money for basic improvements. A basic improvements. No, it's not for that.
It is
also make sure that a grandmother doesn't die because from a preventable disease, because she can't get access to health care in this country. That's what it's for.
I do want to go back to something that Natasha mentioned, which is if it was Bezos talking about, will raising taxes on me actually help the nurse? This was the quote you were talking about.
These people sometimes say that I don't pay taxes. That's not true. I pay billions of dollars in taxes. And it's a perfect, again, if people want me to pay more billions, right, then let's have that debate. But don't pretend, that that's going to solve the problem. You could double the taxes I pay, and it's not going to help that teacher in Queens. I promise you. So you can't connect those two things, not logically.
And then Zoran Mamdani, the mayor of New York City, did say, I know a few teachers in Queens who would beg to differ in response to that. But that kind of gets at the heart of what we're talking about.
Well, let's not talk about Zoran Mamdani, because he's about to ruin the economy of New York City by chasing the billionaires out. And we need their money. We need they create jobs.
What set of facts do you have to back that up?
I don't know. Griffin was just about to spend $6 billion.
What massive exodus are you talking about?
He was going to hire 6,000.
He was going to
hire 6,000 people.
He just said there's a massive exodus in New York City. I would like to know the evidence.
High income.
I would like to know.
The state of Florida, Charles, is your evidence for this.
No, that's not. Everybody moving to Florida is not moving from New York. So I want to know.
No, they are moving from New York.
I'm sorry. What numbers? What is the source of that?
Clients are very
They're
wealthy.
literally telling you.
They do not want to stay here anymore.
What is the source for the data? I'm not you talking. What is the source for the data?
Listen, here's the. How about the fact that Jeff Bezos, I think in that exact.
Thank you very much. You have no data. We can't just do this whole thing like I know a guy. That's not data.
Okay,
Data
Griffin
trails
already
is
said
in the
it.
revenue that the city is
Griffin said,
generating.
I'm not
The
going to pull
city
my
is not
seat.
generating
No,
revenue.
Hang on.
He
I
said
think,
it.
I think there's a question of
Here's a
what
chart
you're,
that
what,
shows who's moving to New York.
Yeah,
Okay,
young
there
kids
you
who
go.
don't have money.
Also, the
ain't
millionaires
too many billionaires
are
moving
holding
here.
steady on this chart.
I
What are you
think there's
talking
the
about?
Zorman
question
Mamdani
of
What's your
going
data?
to Albany and begging for money.
I think
What's your
there's
data?
the
We had money to
question
raise
of
from
who
them.
is staying
You
in
have
New
some
York
data?
or not, and then there's the question, the point that I think you're making, which is a tax base.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
And that,
And on bonds.
that whether they're leaving or not, let's put that to the side for a second. I think what you're trying to say is that they are responsible for a lot of the tax.
Tremendous.
base.
And
Is that
Governor, yes, and Governor Kathy Hochul said, Kathy Hochul, am going to go to Florida and go get the billionaires back to New York because we need them in the state of New York. Eric Adams begged them, Mayor Adams begged them, please stay in New York.
How
I'll
many
make the
billionaires
streets
have left
safer.
since Zoran Mondani was
Just to sort
elected?
of,
Natasha.
just to give a bit of a perspective on this that I think is important, I agree with you. Billionaires do remarkable things. They start remarkable businesses that bring in a ton of economic growth, create jobs. But we have a two-tiered tax system in this country. If you are a wage earner, your tax liability is automatically fulfilled and you are paying taxes at ordinary income rates. If you are someone like Jeff Bezos, you play by a different set of rules. And to be clear, it's not their fault that the rules are this way. Our tax system is not well equipped to capture capital income. And that's something that we have to do something
We're not
about.
going to let them completely off the hook. There's a lot of lobbying that goes on. There's a lot of political campaign
I totally
donations
agree.
that go
Carried
on.
interest, look at that.
It is not that it's not their fault that it's like that. It is like that because they give money to make it like that.
All right, we got to leave it there. But this, as I thought, would be a very robust debate. Up next, the president.